Imagine you're driving down Biscayne Boulevard in Miami, but instead of endless glass towers reflecting the blazing sun, you're surrounded by buildings that look like vertical gardens. Lush greenery cascades down 30-story facades. Office workers tend to rooftop farms during lunch breaks. Hotel pools are nestled what feels like the Everglades, except you're in downtown Miami. Sounds impossible? It's not. It's happening right now in Singapore. I'm Santiago Cueto, board-certified international business law expert and best-selling author. This past summer, I spent a month in Singapore, a place where the weather makes South Florida feel like a cold spring day. And I was blown away by something I had never seen before. Entire city blocks where every building seemed alive with greenery. Balconies overflowing with plants, walls covered in living vegetation, and rooftops that look like tropical paradises. Here's the kicker. This isn't some environmental activism project. It's a profit-driven economic strategy that's making Singapore richer, healthier, and frankly, a lot more pleasant to live in. And South Florida is perfectly positioned to do the exact same thing. Let's be honest about what we've got going on here in South Florida. We build concrete and glass boxes, crank up the AC to Arctic levels, and wonder why our energy bills are through the roof. We landscape around buildings instead of integrating nature into them. We treat greenery as decoration instead of infrastructure. The result? Cities feel like furnaces half the year, energy costs that eat up huge chunks of every budget, personal and municipal. Buildings that all look the same, offering zero competitive advantage in attracting businesses or residents. Meanwhile, our natural climate advantage, year-round growing season, abundant rainfall, tropical condition sits completely unused. We're like someone living next to the ocean, but buying bottled water. Here's what Singapore figured out that we haven't. In 2009, they passed a law requiring all new buildings to replace 100% of their ground footprint with greenery somewhere on the structure. You take up 10,000 square feet of the ground, you give back 10,000 square feet of green space on that building. Rooftops, walls, terraces, balconies, wherever. But this isn't about planting a few shrubs and calling it done. These are functional, productive green spaces. I've walked through residential towers where families grow their own food, 40 stories up. Office buildings where conference rooms are surrounded by living walls that actually improve air quality during meetings. Shopping centers with rooftop farms that supply their own restaurants. And here's what really got my attention. Every single one of these buildings was cooler, more energy efficient, and commanded higher rents than traditional concrete structures. Forget the environmental arguments for a minute. Let's talk about money, because that's what really drives policy change. You see, Singapore's green buildings use 30% less energy for cooling than conventional structures. In South Florida, where AC costs can hit $300, $500 monthly for a typical home, that's really money back in people's pockets. Property values in green certified buildings run 15 to 25% higher than standard concrete boxes. Why? Because people pay premium prices to live and work in spaces that don't feel like bunkers. The productivity numbers are even more impressive. Workers in green office buildings show 15% higher productivity rates. Students in green schools get better test scores and miss fewer days. When your workforce is more productive and healthier, that translates directly to bottom line profits for businesses. But here's the part that really matters for South Florida's economy. Singapore has become the global hub for green building technology. Companies from around the world set up research facilities there just to be part of the ecosystem. We're talking about an entire industry, specialized construction, vertical farming systems, urban ecosystem design that employs tens of thousands and generates billions of dollars in revenue. Singapore pulled this off in a tropical climate with limited land and imported soil. South Florida has everything they have, but better. We've got year-round growing conditions without Singapore's occasional cool snaps. We've got abundant fresh water instead of having to import it. We've got established agricultural knowledge and supply chains. We've got existing construction expertise and lower labor costs. Most importantly, we've got cities that are hungry for competitive advantages. Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, they're all competing to attract businesses, residents, and tourists. Green Building Technologies offers a clear differentiator that pays for itself. Here's where my legal background gets excited. Singapore didn't just pass a law and hope for the best. They created a complete economic system that makes compliance profitable. South Florida could implement this tomorrow with 3 simple policy changes. First, cash incentives for early adopters. Offer grants covering 50% of green installation costs for the first 5 years. This isn't taxpayer money down the drain. It's economic development investment that pays back through increased property values and business attraction. Number 2, streamlined approvals. Create a single green building authority instead of making developers navigate 15 different agencies. Fast approvals for green projects, standard timelines for everything else. And third, smart tax incentives. Reduce property taxes for buildings that exceed green space requirements. Give business tax breaks for companies that locate in green certified buildings. Make following the law profitable, not just mandatory. Let's get specific about what this looks like in practice. Imagine new condo towers in Miami Beach where every unit has a private garden terrace. Office buildings in Boca Raton where employees can grab fresh herbs for lunch from the living walls in the lobby. Shopping centers in Fort Lauderdale with rooftop farms that supply the food courts. The maintenance argument falls apart when you realize South Florida already maintains massive amounts of landscaping around the buildings. We're just talking about making some of that vertical and making it functional instead of purely decorative. The cost argument disappears when you factor in energy savings. A living wall that cuts cooling costs by 20% pays for itself in 3 to 5 years, then generates pure profit for decades. Here's what nobody talks about. Implementing this creates entire new industries. Vertical farming consultants, living wall installers, urban ecosystem designers, green building inspectors, jobs that don't exist today, but would employ thousands within 5 years. South Florida could become the Western Hemisphere's center for tropical green building technology. Instead of watching Singapore corner this market, we could be exporting our expertise to every other warm weather city in the Americas. The construction industry loves this because it adds high margin services to every project. The real estate industry loves it because it creates premium product categories. And the tourism industry loves it because it makes cities more visually appealing and Instagram worthy. While cold weather cities struggle with seasonal growing limitations, South Florida could showcase year-round green building performance. While dry climates fight water restrictions, we've got abundant rainfall to support living building systems. This gives us a massive competitive advantage in attracting businesses looking for sustainable operations, residents who want better quality of life, and tourists seeking unique experiences. The cities that move first will attract the businesses, residents, and investment. The ones that wait will be copying someone else's success instead of creating their own. The future of our cities isn't predetermined. Singapore made their choice and got rich by doing it. South Florida can do the same. If you think South Florida should stop playing catch-up and start leading the way, make sure to subscribe for more analysis of policies that create real economic growth. Hit that like button if you want to see your city covered in productive greenery instead of energy-sucking concrete. And tell me in the comments which South Florida city you think should implement this first. I read every response.